Make no mistake, I absolutely love the PlayStation Vita. My two favorite PlayStation platforms were the PSP and the PS Vita, along with PS2 trailing that, because I never had a PS2 when I was growing up, and now that I have a PS2, I see all of the great games that came to that platform, albeit a little late, but hey, emulation has done some great stuff for me so far. So sure enough, on the PS Vita there were a couple of games I really liked. There were a lot of Monster Hunter clones, more specifically Soul Sacrifice and Freedom Wars, which sure enough were actually going to be getting sequels according to Shuhei Yoshida-san, who has been working at Sony for the longest time, over 30 years, and he's now kind of doing a bit of a press tour across different podcasts, different news sites and things like that, just kind of talking about his previous experience in relation to certain bits and pieces here and there. And it's funny to see how the focus on the PS4 basically marked the end of the Vita, and this subtitle here is very appropriate given what ended up happening. So, just to kind of give a bit of context, so sequels to two fan-favorite PS Vita games were in development before the budget for both games were diverted to PS4 development. According to former SIE president Shuhei Yoshida, who was this week revealed that the sequels were in development but ultimately scrapped as Sony transitioned from focusing on the cult favorite handheld to putting its resources behind the PS4. Speaking to Sacred Symbols Plus, Yoshida said, "We were actually working on Soul Sacrifice 2 and Freedom Wars 2, but because of budget limitation, we had to stop and move on to the PS4. Basically, that decision being made right there is basically what, I wouldn't say it killed the Vita, but that's what showed that PlayStation did not have confidence that the Vita was going to do well. The fact that they took their chips and diverted around to the PS4. Keeping in mind, I'm pretty sure they greenlit the sequel to Gravity Rush 2, way before, and ended up releasing that on PS4 instead of PS Vita, because I think if I were to take a guess, I'm pretty damn sure that Gravity Rush 2 was also greenlit alongside, or at least to some extent alongside, Soul Sacrifice 2 and Freedom Wars 2. So it's very unfortunate that we did not get to see these games come out. And for those of you guys that are in the know when it comes to the PS Vita, and especially the Soul Sacrifice games, yes, we did get the original Soul Sacrifice on the Vita, and we did get not a sequel, but an enhanced version on the same platform called Soul Sacrifice Delta. Delta is not a sequel to Soul Sacrifice, it's just a slightly more updated version of the original. And granted, like, these games did really well. So did games like Severed by Drinkbox Studios, as an example. So a lot of games did do really well on PS Vita. Unfortunately, PS Vita, the platform themselves, didn't do particularly well enough for them to keep developing games on it, and then ended up diverting those funds. And that's kind of what I meant by that the focus on PS4 marked the end of the Vita, was basically taking the funds that were allocated and transitioning it over, because had these two games released, would the PS Vita have flourished more? Probably not. All things considered, I think we can look at a bunch of different reasons as to why the Vita died and failed. We could look at stuff like the fact that the memory cards were completely, like, you had to buy very specific memory cards and you couldn't use anything else. If we're able to use SD cards, I feel like that would have been a lot better. That's the first thing. The second thing is this diverting of funds and games, because if Sony doesn't have confidence in their own handheld, then no one else is going to. Granted, the PS Vita did get way more love than the PSVR 2 did, which ultimately is suffering the same fate, if not worse than what the Vita did. So that's kind of really unfortunate to see. So yeah, also just to, I guess, kind of give a bit of an interesting tidbit into basically what kind of games Freedom Wars and Soul Sacrifice was. Basically, they're both Monster Hunter clones, where you go into an area, you hunt a large monster, and the backdrop of both of these games are very different. In Freedom Wars, your main character is, I think, got 1,000,000 years in jail, and you have to try and get those years down as much as humanly possible. So you go out and do various missions for your precinct. And then as you do more missions, the more your actual like sentence kind of ticks down. And I think trophy wise, you only need to go as low as 500,000 years. But of course, the harder the missions you do, the faster that number will go down. Whereas with Soul Sacrifice, you're like this magician wizard dude who is following the story of a talking book. To find this mad wizard that's going around killing people. And the neat thing about Soul Sacrifice is you can either absorb the soul of a monster or sacrifice them, increasing either your soul level or your sacrifice level. The higher your soul level is, the more defense you have and the more attacks you're able to tank. But obviously you do need to deal some damage. The higher your sacrifice level is, the more damage you deal. And so when you hit level 100, which is the max, your soul plus sacrifice level adds up to what your actual level is. So if you have like 50 soul and 50 sacrifice, you're a level 100 character that is an incredibly balanced character. Whereas if you've got like 99 sacrifice and 1 soul, it just means you're a level 100 that's an absolute glass cannon, because your defense is not going to be high, but you can deal a ton of damage. So yeah, it's a very, very interesting game that deserved a lot more love than what it got. And I think I can say the exact same thing for what's it called? Freedom Wars. Freedom Wars, at least, actually, you know what? No, Freedom Wars did get more love because both of these franchises have 2 games, but the thing is that Freedom Wars has Freedom Wars Remastered. Whether or not we're going to get a Soul Sacrifice Remastered remains to be seen, but I'd be interested to hear what you guys have to say about this, but also about the Vita as a whole, because I'm very, very disappointed with the decision of not supporting the Vita. I get it from a business perspective, but I still just don't agree with the decision that was made, and it is very, very unfortunate that we did not get to see a Soul Sacrifice 2 or a Freedom Wars 2. And one day I would like to jump to that alternate universe where, that parallel universe where we did actually get those games. But hey, it is what it is. We unfortunately were not able to get something that was potentially almost greenlit, but we did for some reason get a Gravity Rush 2, and I don't think we'll be getting another Gravity Rush game anytime soon, if at all. But with all of that being said, however, let me know what you guys think about all of this in the comments below. Like the video if you liked it, subscribe to the channel. I'm aiming for 500 subs by the end of the year, and with all that being said, I do upload every day, so I'll see you guys tomorrow.